Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. This is the 12th of a series of basic Python programming course. I'm Sarjun and you can call me Sarj. I'm a data scientist, a data science trainer, and a mentor to the youth. So before we start, please help me with my socials. I'm trying to reach out to as many people as possible. Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, subscribe, send me a message, DM, and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. Now, getting down to today's session. Okay, today we're going to be covering tuples, sets, and dictionaries. Okay, so what are tuples, sets, and dictionaries? Okay, so we have covered lists, we have covered list data structures, we have covered the basic variable types. So tuples, sets, and dictionaries are just different data structures that have different characteristics. Okay, so we're going to be covering them today. So as mentioned, today we're covering tuples, sets, and dictionaries. So what are tuples? Okay, tuples are very similar to lists, very similar, right? Technically, the only difference between a tuple and a list is the fact that tuples are in this parentheses, while lists are in, what do you call this? Square brackets. Yeah, square brackets, right? The square brackets, right? So let me type it out. So tuples are in this bracket. You can see this bracket, right? So if I were to put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 are tuples. So this is parentheses, and one, when you program, right, you really don't remember the exact name of this kind of bracket. So this is a square bracket. So the square brackets, so this is what we call a tuple, right? And this in construct, how we construct them, right? This is how a list. But then you see, they look exactly the same, right? Let me show you something. Let me show you something. It's so it's so you could say weird that if I were to call a list A, I just call it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, and then I print list A just to show you some example. I print list A, and then I do a tuple. This is just testing only. Just testing only. Just want to show you before I go into the lesson proper, right? Just want to show you how similar they are, right? Right, and then I print tuple, tuple, tuple. Okay, see, it's exactly how it is. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then you can also do a, if you don't believe me, you can do a print list A just to see what is that, and then you can do a print list tuple. A tuple. I like the word tuple. Why I list it, converting it TYP type. See, the first one is a class list. The second one is a class tuple. So you start thinking, so what is it that is very different from them, and why do we have something so similar but something so different? Okay, it's because unlike a list where you can do so many stuff with a list, you can append, you can extend, you can remove, you can append, extend, remove. What else is there? Max, min, and max, min you also can do in a tuple. You can append, amend, extend. What else? There's a lot of lists. Remove, and then pop, insert. So many things, right? So many, right? So when there's so many things in list, you can't do all these things. Sorry, in list. In tuple, you can't do all these things. So you see, I don't have a tuple. Let me try. Let me try. Tuple, tuple A dot append. Let's try. Append 3. There's an error, right? Tuple object has no attribute called append. So tuple has no append, right? So that's something very important. Obviously, tuple I can reference. I can call out that function, right? Tuple 0 is equals to 1. See, tuple 0. I can't even change. See, in list, right? In list, I can change. In list, I can change list A the 0 element is 1, right? I can set it to 10. Now, when I print list A, the first element, which is a 0 element, is now 10, right? But I can't do that in tuple. So what does this mean? Okay, this is where we're going to be now with this information, right? We're going into today's lesson. Okay, so tuples are container objects. They have heterogeneous sequence of elements, can have duplicate values. They are immutable. You cannot change their structure. You cannot change the values in a tuple like you please, right? So that's the problem, right? So this is where you have to be careful that tuple, the structure, obviously there are certain exceptions lah, but let's not go into the exceptions, okay? The fact is that just take it as tuples, you can't change their structure. They are kind of like fixed. So because they are fixed, okay, why are they fixed? There's two benefits lah. They are fixed because you are setting a very strict criteria for the structure. So for list A, if I say append 6, right, and then I print list A, you can see now I've changed the structure from a 5-element structure. Now it becomes 6-element structure. I can't do that for a tuple. The only way I can do that for a tuple, which sounds absurd, but that's the only way. It's like this. Tuple A is equals to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? And then the only way I can change tuple A to another structure, right, is, sounds absurd lah. Doesn't make sense, but yeah, people ask me, huh? So this is how you can change the structure. You reassign it. Sorry, typo. You reassign it. Right? You reassign the whole thing to a new structure. So it is technically deleting this value from the memory byte, and then it's saving this inside the memory byte. So it's not like this. It's not like appending an element to an existing element, existing data structure, right? It's just changing the. It's in order for you to do some if you want to add another value inside here, you need to reassign it, which is why they are very strict. So they have very limited functionalities, but it's very useful, right? I'll explain to you why it's very useful, because there are sometimes you need some data structures to be fixed, right? You don't want it to be easily modified. Okay, you have to reconstruct them if you want to override them. And tuple supports operations such as not in the basic operations, concatenation, min, max, length, indexing, and slicing. So they do the basic stuff, but not the changing of data structure kind of stuff, right? Obviously, min and max they support, right? So let's try. Let's create a list. That's why list tuple. See, this is the problem when you work with a list so much. Having to say tuple is so. Let me try tuple. Say tuple, right? So we're going to create these purchase items with these values, some string values and some numeric values. Then let's print purchased items. This is a tuple, and then print the type of purchased items. So you're already going to know it's going to be a tuple, right? That's it. So when I run this, it gives me type so fast until you forgot the type. Yes, it's class tuple. Okay, the use of parentheses, for some reason, unlike other data structures, you need to type in the square brackets and all that, right, to initialize it. But for tuple, it's a bit different. I think initially in the first few lessons, I did say, I can do something like Gary. I remember I used Gary's age. Gary age. Something like Gary age. Gary salary. Something like this, right? Right, I did something like that. Gary salary, and then something like Gary occupation, something like that. I did something like that, and then I assign it to 3 different variables. If you can remember in the first few sessions that I had, wrong spelling of occupation. Okay, correct spelling of occupation. Why am I? This is the problem. Okay, anyway, age. Let's put 24, 32, not 32, 3,200. And occupation is engineer, example. This it's a tuple, right? Even though I don't specifically put the parentheses, Python automatically takes this as a tuple. So I can prove this to you. I can print type of this 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 this. Let me put this in. Let me see whether I can do this or not. Is it going to throw me an error? Let's try. Oh, I do have unexpected. It's a tuple. Can you see? So these three values together, I can actually assign it to just, oops, I can actually assign it to what we call an underscore. Usually, you can just do an underscore like this, right? And then you can just assign that one underscore to three of these values, and then it's a tuple, right? It's a weird way of of doing things. So, in a sense, if I were to do something like, these are all very 24, right? It brings out, if I take the underscore and bring out the first, so underscore is just a placeholder, right? So anyway, just to send the point across that you actually have used tuple before. It's just that I didn't explicitly say it was a tuple. Maybe I might have said, right? But yeah. So in a tuple, the parentheses is not mandatory. So weird. Why is Python so unfair to it? Yeah. So but it's the way that's constructed. Okay, so let's go back to purchase items and let me copy this and paste it here. So we will do the next segment here. Right? We'll do this. And then it's asking me to do the same thing. Oh yeah, without the parentheses. So just to show you, without the parentheses, does it still give me the same thing? So I think I've already made my point, but I will just do this again. Okay. Yep, it's class tuple. You can see the brackets are there, right? The brackets are already auto inserted for you by Python, because Python knows it's a tuple. Okay, moving on. Using the sorted function on a tuple. So this will return a list value. So when you apply a sorted function on a tuple, you are doing some form of manipulation and some changes. And what happens is that it returns a list value. So this part you have to be careful because you don't want to assume what is happening. So the sorted function actually does the sorting but stores it into a list value for you. So be careful when you do that. This is something very important, right? So when I do prices item equals to this value here, I create a variable prices item sorted is equals to sorted, not minus sign, equals to assignment, not equals to assignment sign. You cannot say equal. Equal is a sign, but prices items, and then you print it out. And then you check the variable type. Oops, there is a typo here. Sorry, my bad. Yeah. So prices item, I mean, is this. And when I sort it, I am not doing it for the sorted items. I'm supposed to do this for the sorted items. My bad. Because actually I should do it for both lah. I should do it for both. Then you understand. Right. So the price item is sorted. Okay, let me sorry, let me not this. I think my screen jumped. Give me a moment. Okay, so let me do this first. So that you can follow. So this is for price item. Okay, then the same thing, print prices items sorted. Okay, so this is the one this is the sorted value that's inside here, and then print the type of prices item sorted, right? This is important. So you know that you think you pass in a tuple and what comes out is something else. Yeah. So one is a tuple, and when you sort it, it comes out as a list. Then you're like, what's this? Yeah, that's the way it works, huh? So be careful. Okay. Now, let's see. Okay. So one way of how you can still keep, if you want to sort it, but you still want to keep a tuple version for some reason. You want to sort it, but you want to keep the tuple version. So there is a function called tuple, right? That allows you to pass in a list and converts it to a tuple. So basically, like how we have a list function, we have a tuple function, right? Let me just do this. So instead of just putting sorted, you put tuple, sorted, and then prices, items. So now you get back a tuple because it's converting to a list. Then the list will convert back to a tuple, right? So do beware, because when you write SQL statements and all that, right, it prefers a tuple rather than a list. So that's as far as my experience. I'm not sure whether any of you have. I mean, yeah, you can definitely use a list, but you need to use a loop and all that. So yeah, just be careful about that. Items sorted. Okay, so this should work. Yep. So you have a. Sorry, let me scroll down a bit. Yep, you have a tuple. Right now it's sorted and it's a tuple. Right, simple. Let's move on. Okay, the use of nested tuples, similar to nested lists, provides an opportunity to use loops to traverse the various items in the tuple variable, right? So we're going to be using, let's see how to do this, right? We're going to create a sequence. So as I told you, a tuple, when I say it's like list is a sequence variable. Sequence is, you know, that there's a count. Remember, for loops like a sequence variable. So tuple is also a sequence variable, right? So you can do something like this: product prices, and then I copy this. Sorry, you all have to type it out. I'm so sorry, but that's live, right? Because I mean, it took me a lot of time to type this out, you know. So when I'm teaching, I'm copying and pasting it, but follow along, lah. If you cannot follow, please pause the button, pause, and then you copy first, then you play. Okay, so let's do this. So remember there's there. So you can see that there's a sequence. Each element here is a tuple. If this whole thing is a tuple, right? Each element here is a tuple, right? This is one element, this is two element, or this is second element, this is the third element, this is the fourth element. So you all know this each element is a tuple, right? Now I want to go into each element. So each element, you are extracting two variables out. So how you do it is for product and price. So you can see, even though this is a bit ugly, but you can see for product and price. So I'm saying for tea and 250, for coffee and 320, for sugar and 8, for noodles and 12, for bread and 5. So that's how it's going to look at this. So that's how this is going to be printed. It's actually taking out these brackets are not very nice, but I think you get the picture, right? For product and price in product prices item. Sorry, I must call it item. Right, that's why I said here, right? Item. Okay, I want to print my product, which is important, right? I want to print my price, and I want to print what? That's it. So when I run this should actually give me an output like this. You can see tea 2.5, coffee 3.2, so on and so forth, right? Okay, that's the first method, right? There is another way of how you can traverse through the same output, but a little bit different. We are going to use what we call a nested for loop, right? So this way, we're going to do for product price in product prices. Okay, let me just copy this just to show you what it is. Let me copy this first and paste this here. Okay, and you can see it easily. So for product prices in product prices items, so this time around it's not taking them out, it's not unpacking them separately, it's taking them as a whole. So this product prices here now refers to T and 250. T and 250. T and 250. So here what happens is that it takes out T. Why am I doing this? Okay. It takes out T in the first iteration and 250 together. It takes them out together, right? So if just to show you what happens, let me print this out, then you'll see what I'm trying to say, okay? Print product price. Product prices items. Where am I not doing this right? There's a typo. There's a typo here. Product prices items. I see a S here. That happens, right? Okay. See, one small S can cause a problem. Yeah, I'll see all these things, you know. Okay, you can see this time around it's packing them together as a lump. It's one. So if you give 2, it will pack them as two separate outputs because it'll take T and 250. Now the trick is, what if I put 3? Somewhere I say product price 1. Let's call it, make it easier a bit for me. I call it PP1 because it can be anything. PP2. Okay, PP1 and PP2. Then I'm just saying, PP1 and PP2 doesn't matter what PP1 and PP2 is. Okay. This one works, right? PP1 and PP2 works, right? It's just the first, PP1 refers to the first element, PP2 refers to the second element. Can be anything, can be monkey and donkey also, doesn't matter, right? Now, I want to do a PP3, right? What happens? Let's just try this. See what Python says. Python says, not enough values to unpack. Python is saying, hey, what lah? People tell you there's you tell me there's 3 values, but there's only 2. Where am I supposed to go and find the third value? That's the problem, right? That's why this does not work. So you must know your data structure, you must know your data, right? And your tuples must also be of the same structure. You cannot have sometimes 2, sometimes 3, sometimes 4. You cannot have all that. You must be consistent, right? That is when this will work. If not, it won't work, right? Okay, with that said, let's go back to my previous example. Product prices in product price item. I want to print product prices. Okay, now you know that product prices is this, right? But I don't want to do that. I want to do for each. Each is just another name, right? For each in product prices. So this time around, it will unpack the same thing, right? It will go through in the first round. It will go through. It will go through. You'll see for each. So it will start with T as the first value, and then 2250 as the next value. So now let's see how this works. Print each. You can see you go T250, T250, coffee 320, sugar 8. It's just unpacking each. It's unpacking individually, right? So this is another method, right? This is how you can do this as well. So you just print. So the thing is, you don't want to print the star here. You want to print it here. I'll explain to you why. When you print the star here, it's not very nice. You'll print after every T star 250 star like that. So I don't want it to be here. I want it to be after each for loop, right? So it goes T 250 star. Coffee 320 star. So it goes into it's like that. So it depends on how you want it. So I'll print it here after the out of the initial for loop, right? So yep, so that's about it for that example, right? Let's move on. Okay, the repetition of tuple elements. Okay, let's see what's the repetition of what is this example. Okay, let's call orders received equals to Why do I always put minus? Okay, Pi PIZZA and cola. Okay, so far. Okay, and I want to create a number of repetition that I want to create, right? So I just set n equals to 2, right? So I assign a tuple variable orders received repeated, okay, equals to orders received times n. So here it's creating another tuple that has, let me show you, is sorry, received. It's creating another tuple that has 4 elements, pizza, cola, pizza, cola. Let's see. So yeah, it's correct. Pizza, cola, pizza, cola. So that's what it's doing. It's just times, multiplying the same element times 2 and then assigning it to another element, another variable. I mean, another tuple variable, which is orders received repeated. Okay. The concatenation of two variables. Okay, let's look at the concatenation. Concatenation again is creating another variable. So remember, it's not changing any structure of the original tuple variable. It's just creating a new variable by concatenating two other variables. It's very different from list append or list extend, right? Do not think that they are the same, right? So this orders online equals to, let me copy this. All about food, huh? So this orders offline equals to this. Okay, assign a tuple variable total orders with the concatenated value of both tuples using the plus operator. So I'm going to use the plus operator here, right? So how am I going to do it? I'm going to create total orders equals to orders online plus orders offline. So this is just to add two tuples together and to print them out. Yep, it works. It gives me a tuple. Okay, you can also do a check, a referencing, right? You can do some referencing. Let's create a tuple variable orders equals to this. You can check if any of these elements are inside of it. So let's print if pizza in orders. It gives me true. Simple, right? You can also perform a check of a non-existent value in a tuple variable. So let's say books equals to, so I'm going to copy this. Right? And then check non-existent, so not in, right? So I want to check print. Let's say I want to check Java for beginners. Not in books. True, it's not in books, right? You can also do indexing and slicing. As like we mentioned earlier, you can actually take out just the first few elements, right? So I'm going to do something very simple here. Let's tuple. Okay, let's do books. Also use a square bracket. So when you're indexing, it's always a square bracket, even if it's a tuple or a list or whatsoever. Indexing is usually associated with the square brackets. So that's the syntax in that sense, right? Okay, so I'm going to do 0 to 3. You can see intro to machine learning, 20, because the first three elements come up. Okay, let's get into a practice, a quick 5 minutes practice. Assign a tuple variable, product price item with these values. Assign a total cost value to 0, not to 0, total cost variable with value 0, using a for loop or a while loop, and the prices from tuple. You sum all of those and display what is the total cost. Okay, at 5 minutes, try it out. how do we solve this practice? Let's start off with creating a set variable called this set, and I'm going to copy this from here. Okay, let's copy this. Okay, for you, you have to type it out if you're following, right? Don't worry, you can always pause the screen and type it out. Okay, I'm going to create that set with apple, banana, cherry, apple, banana, and this long, very long set of variables, right? You can see clearly they are not the same when I initiate them, right? They're definitely not the same, right? I'm going to now create a variable called count. This set equals to length of this set, right? You can apply the length function. Count that set is equals to the length of that function, the length function of that set. And now, if count this set is equals to count that set, I'm going to print they are the same, right? Else, I'm going to print they, capital T, they are different. Simple. So when I run this, you know that they are the same. So this shows that no matter how many elements I have, if it's only going to reduce it to unique elements, and even though you have, here clearly we have so many different elements here, different elements as a different same version, but different counts of them, right? But it's only going to save them as one, right? So that's something you need to factor in when you're doing your set. So don't assume that just because you pass in so many elements, when you create a set, it will take in all the elements, because sets only take unique values and not duplicate values. Okay, let's move on to dictionaries. So what are dictionary? So dictionary, in a sense, is similar to sets, just a little bit different. In a sense, you, instead of just one value, you have a key value pair. So what do I mean by key value pair? So every element has something like this: a name, example, which is a key, and John, which is a value. So it's going to be name and John. This whole thing will be known as a dictionary element, one whole element, right? And it's separated by a colon. So this colon, so in a sense, if I were to type it out, it's going to be something like this, right? Name, wait, it should be in quotes, name, in this case, because it's a text, name John, example, right? Let me be consistent. Both use single quotes. If I'm using single quotes, if I use double quotes, then both use double quotes. Okay, so this is a dictionary element, right? You can see that it's enclosed in a curly brace, right? This is the key, this is the value. So key value pair. This whole thing is a one dictionary with one element, right? The element has a key, which is called name, and a value, which is called John, right? So that is a key value pair. The thing about dictionaries is that, as I said, similar to sets have only one unique value in it, right? So similarly, you can only have one key with that value. Example, name, it can only be one name. You cannot have multiple names, keys, if you get what I mean. You can have name John, age John, hobbies John. You can have something like that. But you cannot have name John, then another name John, it will just be name John, name Peter, name Alfred. It will always be just saving one version of name, which is the latest version. So it will not save the initial version. So it will overwrite. So let's try. Let me show you what I'm trying to say here, right? If I say my DICT equals to, I say name, John. Okay, I put a comma to go on to my next element. I say name. So I'm using the same key again, which doesn't really make much sense. But nonetheless, I print my dict. You can see that only Peter is saved. So even though I said, name is John, what happened to my name is John? So this is overwritten by this key value pair. Obviously, if I were to say name new, right, then it will save name as the first key with John as a value, and name new as a second key, and Peter as a value, right? So it's this key value pair must be different. The keys must be unique, right? So with that said, let's go into our first example. Let's create first DICT equals to this value. So that means there are a total of 3 keys and 3 values here, okay? Inside this. So you are supposed to display. How are you going to display the key value without just calling the whole dictionary? So what we use the brackets. The square brackets for indexing purposes. Similar to how you use indexing with lists and tuples, we're going to index with the key instead. So let me show you how it's done. So I'm going to print first DICT, and I'm going to pass in the value name inside here. So you know already, instead of looking for numbers, it's looking for John, because John is the key for, John has the key name, right? Sorry, John has the value for the key name. That makes more sense, right? Okay, so I can print 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 just to differentiate my key, and then I'm going to print out. So all I need to do is just change the name to H and change the name here. I just copy and paste. So I'm just changing the call to hobbies. So I have 3, right? My first key value is name John. My second key value is age and 36. And my third key value is hobbies and a list of what are the hobbies are. So let's run this. You get this 36. Sorry, John for the name, 36 for the age, and singing, archery, and bowling for the hobbies. This is a list. Okay, moving on. How do you just want to retrieve a particular value using a method instead? So earlier we used the square brackets. Another way you can do is you can use methods. So let's create one called purchased. Let's create one dictionary called purchase items, and then we pass in. Apologies for that. My computer's, my mouse is too sensitive, right? So this is my key value. So you can see my value here is number. So my key value can be a key of a string and a value of a number, right? That's what we did earlier for age, right? So that can be done. So let's then use the get method with the key as sanitizer passed in as an argument. So basically, I'm just going to show you how the simple version purchase item dot get. I'm going to pass in sanitizer, right? 2. So it gets 2. So I can since it's getting 2, it's the same as just using the square brackets, right? So I can do something like a print here, amount to be paid, and square bracket, and just to make it nicer, yeah, amount to be paid 2. You can make it even do something like this, right? Yeah. Okay, how do you update a dictionary variable? Okay, obviously the square brackets is the most easiest way to update, right? One way is to just say, okay, let's just call out again, first dict is equals to all this, right? And then I'm going to increase, because I know the age value is a number. I can just add, because it's a number, right? It's a numeric value, integer in this case. Let's check it out. Let's check it out what it is. So I just type print. If you're in doubt, always check it, right? First DICT, and then I pass in age. I want to see what type is it. It's an integer type, right? As mentioned, so it's integer, right? Just to make sure it's integer lah. I want to now update this. I want to update my this first DICT. So if I know this is equal to 36, all I need to do is I assign it with the same, right? I assign it with the same. I'm going to copy this and paste it here, and I'm going to plus 1. Right, when I plus 1, now 36 has become 37. As simple as that, right? I can also update the hobbies, right, by doing the same, right? I can call out hobbies. And I can call out, since hobbies is a list, I can call out the second element, because I want to edit the second element to soccer, right? And I can print out this tree again. So let me copy this. Okay, so I'm just doing the same thing, but this time I'm just going to copy this and show you the three variables, and you see how they have changed. So now John is still John. He's 1 year older, and his second element here from archery has now become soccer, right? So it has made all the changes using this method. Okay, how do you insert a new key value pair, right? If you want to insert a new key value pair, it's very straightforward in the sense that it's the same way as updating it, kind of thing, right? You just need to set it, right? So let's do this. First dig with, I'm using the same example to be consistent as much as possible. Huh? Okay, so this is the first dig, and I can just take first, because the element does not exist, and Python knows that if the element does not exist, you just create one, right? So you just say gender, gender, equals to male, male, right? And then I can print this out. As simple as that. Right now, you have a gender that's added here because you're just assigning it. So initially there is no such value. Now there's value key and a value that's added here. Okay, another way to insert is to use the set default method. So the set default is another method of how you can add a key value pair as well. So this is a method, a bit similar to a square bracket, but you use the method, you use a dot. So let me start off this purchased items equals to, okay, so here this is equals to this, and then I use a set default method. So all I have to do is just purchase items dot set default set default. I can pass in my key, wallets, okay, and sorry, comma with 4.5, right? That's all. So now when I display it, it will give me my outcome. Right, let me see. Let me show you how this works. Yep, it's there. Wallets 0.5. Okay, moving on. Let's look at another way to create key value pairs. Okay, is used from a tuple. So I can use a tuple to create key value pairs as well, right? So let's try this. Okay, let's try this. Let's try this. TUP equals to, so a tuple, which is what we learned earlier, right? We set it to this. We assign a tuple variable tup with this amount, okay? And then we assign a dictionary variable dict1, okay? What I do is I type dict, so this is a method or a function from keys. I pass in the tup as the parameter, and then I print it out. So when I do that, dictionary equals to dict1. So I want you to see how it looks like. So you can see the keys come from the tuple, order ID, but there's no value. Customer ID, there's no value. Amount, there's no value, right? So what can you do, right? You can choose to update them as a whole. So let's do one more. Let's do dict2, okay, equals to dict dot from keys tup, okay, I add one more element, 8. So what's going to happen is that it's going to set 8 as the default value instead of none. Because earlier I passed in the tuple, I didn't pass in any value, right? Here I'm going to add the word 8, not the word, the number 8 here, and I'm going to print the updated dictionary for, as in, let me not call it updated dictionary, let me call it new dictionary, right? As dict2, right? And you can see that because I put the 8 there, this time around, the new dictionary, order ID 8, customer ID 8, amount 8. I mean, it's random, but it's just that now you have a key value pair, right? This is one other way to create dictionaries, right? But it's not ideal because it doesn't make sense, order ID, customer ID, amount ID, unless they're all the same value. So this one, the limitation is they're all the same value. So if you want to add them as different values, it's better to use the previous methods. right? In one by one, or by using the square brackets as well. Yeah, so one by one. Okay, how do you remove? How do you remove values, right? There are a few methods, right? There are a few methods on how you can remove. One is using the remove method. So let's do FISDICT. Okay, so this one, let me enter and let me backspace this. Okay. Okay, let's do this. Let me copy this and let me paste this here. Okay. And then remove the key value pair for gender. So how do you do that? The fastest way is this is using the inbuilt Python method. I use the word del, DICT, GENDER. So you will remove just the gender key value pair, right? And then it will print. Nowadays, it's that gender is a very sensitive thing, so you shouldn't ask, right? So you can see gender has been removed, right? You can also use what we call a clear, right? A clear method if you want to delete all the variables inside your dictionary. So the way to do it is to use first dict.clear, right? And then you print it. You can see that now it's clear. Okay, moving on. The way to count the length of the dictionary would be use length function. I think this one is kind of quite straightforward, but I'll just show you all this. Okay, equals to this. So it will count only the key value sets. It will not count like there will not be times 2. So please note that. That's very important, right? Now you ask me, how come there's so many elements? But actually, each separated by a comma is one element, right? So please do not get confused by that, right? And then print the number of count. Okay, so it's 3, right? Okay, how do you extract just the keys of each dictionary? Is to use the .keys function. So this one also quite useful, especially when you do loops. So I set a dictionary variable to this. Okay, then I can print the keys. So simple, I do a print the keys, right? I print, so as I said, I use the .keys method, right? Purchased items. Wow, this is why this is typo. Okay, so purchase items .keys keys, and then you print, right? You can see that the keys are printed. Sanitizer, hang set. So same thing. Similarly, I can print the values as well, right? So, wow. Let me clear this and call these values. So these are all inbuilt methods. And finally, I can also do, sorry, this one must change the values. And then here, I can do what we call the items. Items is basically key value pair. Sounds quite cool, right? Items, right? So items are the key value pairs. Okay, so let's run this. You can see the keys, the values, and the key value pairs. Okay. When initiating a dictionary variable, when there are duplicate values, I think something I kind of covered earlier, right? It will only save the last value. So just to show you that one more time, quite simple. So here I have glass twice, right? I have glass 8, glass 10. It will save the glass 10, not the glass 8. Okay, so just to show you that, glass 10. I can also use a zip function to zip 2 lists together to form key value pairs. So if I have 2 lists, so let's say I create list 1 with this value, glass, hanger set, sanitizer, wallets, and list 2. One important point, they must both have the same number of elements. You must have the same number. You cannot have like it wouldn't be appropriate if you have more elements in one list than the other. So just to have the same element, and then you do DICT 3 equals to DICT ZI zip zip, and then you do a list 1. So list 1 will be your key, and list 2 will be your value. Simple as that. Key value, right? So zip this dict zip option will allow you to put them together. Print DICT 3. You can see its key value. Okay, your task. Basically quite simple, similar to the last one. Try it out. So I hope you have already tried that out. So let's now see how to do this. Set list A equals to 1. 2, not 2 and 3, right? And list B is equals to 1, 2, 3. And now we do DICT 1 is equals to DICT zip ST A and ST B, and then you just print DICT 1. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Yep. That's it. That's all for the session. Till the next session. See ya. Bye.